Hello everybody and welcome back to Garibaldi Red, a Nottingham Forest podcast. I'm Max Sayes, your host, and delighted to be back as we look ahead to another Forest game. They come thick and fast, don't they, after this international break, and Forest travel away again to Chelsea this time. On Sunday it is in front of the TV cameras, so it's going to be a big one, and Forest go away from home to another top six club looking to do what they did to Liverpool just a couple of weeks ago. To discuss that and much more, I'm sure, throughout. We're back with Friday brunch, Dave, even though we're pre-recording this on a Thursday night. So, Dave, what have you had for your tea, or what are you going to have for your tea, mate?
I've had some steamed mushrooms, steamed broccoli, steamed carrots, some shaking Kievs, quote Paddy McGuinness, and I've had a load of grapes, which I kind of guess for a fitness professional is not massively inspiring, but it just filled the spot, mate. You know, so Thursday tea time instead of Friday brunch, mate.
Absolutely.
Yeah, full belly, mate, now, so I'm all right.
Thursday tea time. I haven't eaten yet, so I need to eat after this. Right, let's talk Forest, Dave. And obviously last week, that kind of blip in a pretty, a really positive start to the season. Was talking to Max and Sarah in the last episode, and I asked them to rate Forest's start to the season so far out of 10. So I'll ask you the same question, Dave. So far, what would you rate Forest's season? What do you make of it so far?
I've got to go got to give it an 8, really, Max. I mean, it's way beyond what I thought it would be. And okay, the Fulham game was a sort of a blip. Well, we'll only discover whether it's a blip with hindsight. It might turn out to be the start of something not so good. But generally, Forest have looked much improved from the last two seasons. The squad's been trimmed; it's leaner. Bizarrely, the leader of the squad, but apparently seemingly the greater number of options. I think it's been really positive. I mean, obviously Anfield sticks out like a beacon, as it should. It's an astonishing result, given the context of what Liverpool have done with everybody else. So there's going to be ups and downs. I thought, Southampton was really, really good away from home. We could have beaten Bournemouth. We could have beaten Wolves. Really, it's only last week where I kind of thought there wasn't much in the game. It was a penalty given, and maybe a penalty or two penalties not given. Maybe Fulham just had that little sort of smidgen of a greater assurance on the ball. Wasn't much in it. It was at the time it was 8th against 9th, a top half of the table clash, which, if you'd asked me back at the start of August, I would not have foreseen. I'm still thinking sort of 15th, 14th, something like that. But what is clear to me, in my opinion, is that Forest are greatly improved from last year and the year before. I just feel that where the last couple of years we've been generally quite reticent in games, trying to stay in games and then trying to nick something on the break, Forest are now contributing in games. They've been, I think, much more of an aggressor in games than they have been in the past. So I think there's a clear improvement. How great or otherwise that improvement turns out to be, we'll only tell at the fullness of time. I think we'll probably get a really good idea by the start of the next window at the end of December. But so far, pretty good, I would say, Max.
Yeah, and I suppose actually just staying on that Fulham game just quickly as well, Dave, because I walked out the ground, I actually felt quite disappointed, as you do, whenever you lose a football game, really, however you play. The emotions coming out the ground, I think were quite, actually quite high from some fans. And then I got back in the car, travelled back up here to Manchester, and then the next few days, and I've kind of almost slept on it. And you think differently, and I've just thought to myself, actually, if someone had said even we'd have taken 4 points out of Liverpool and Brighton away, you'd have taken that over some of the other results. So it's just been a really positive start, and I do think, and I don't know about you, Dave, but I honestly just think that Fulham was a little blip in the road, and that we've got to work on that home form. Don't get me wrong, we've got to get back to making the City Ground a bit of a fortress, but in a way, we've just had one of the best starts to the seasons in a long time, and to go away and give the fans the best result ever away at Anfield, it's just been brilliant.
Well, Anfield will just live in my memory forever. I mean, I'm lucky enough to remember the great days of the 70s, the late 70s, and then sort of throughout the 80s, where Forest often came up with incredible results. I mean, we go to Chelsea on Sunday. I remember back in the 80s, Forest going there and winning 6-2 one day, and I think Gary Birtle's got a hat trick, and I think Neil Webb got a hat trick or something. And Forest routinely in those days went to places and dominated. I mean, yeah, times have changed, evolutions have gone on since then, but I just think there's Forest seem to have a bit more sort of assurance about what they're doing. They seem like they have a plan, they have an identity. I mean, let's get okay, people. I think the trouble is you win at Anfield and you get a really good point at the Amex, and then people start to get ahead of themselves. And I felt that set us up a little bit for Fulham. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And people will go, well, that's tough at Brighton, that's tough at Liverpool. Fulham, we should be beating them. No, Fulham are a good side, brilliantly coached. Fulham, to me, are far more of an established Premier League team than we have been. We're trying to kind of get to that point where they, to be honest, where Fulham are now, relegation is barely ever mentioned, and we are working towards that. So I just felt they had just that little bit of extra class. I thought Smith Rowe was really, really good.
Yeah.
But again, it came down to a couple of studs down the back of a boot. And it was just a bit like, I mean, if you like, Fulham kind of did to us what we did to Liverpool. I felt once Fulham had gone in front of, I'm not sure I could see us getting this one back. Whereas at Anfield, we took the lead. Now, I definitely could not see Liverpool get it back. And neither could the Liverpool supporters, who left Liverpool to walk alone and walked out to the ground. So it's just, I think the thing is, when you start to believe something's a thing, Max, often it gets flipped on its head. So previously with Forest over the last 2 seasons, it's been the home form and we're terrible away. Now we're not too bad away, and it's the home form that's beginning to sort of be a problem, but we'll see.
We will see. The good news is Morgan Gibbs-White is back for Forest against Chelsea after obviously missing for the yellow card suspension. And as we record this today, we'll put a disclaimer out there. This is before Nuno's press conference. So if Nuno comes out with any fresh injuries, then obviously we haven't discussed them. But the good news is, more good news for Forest and for Morgan Gibbs-White, is he's remained in the England squad. He's retained his place, which is great to see. Shows that, Lee Carsley getting the job wouldn't be a bad thing, because he clearly rates Morgan a lot from their time together in the youth setup. And Dave, I know we've touched on it lots, but Morgan, hell of a player for Forest. We don't need to talk too much about his technical ability and what he does for the club. But in terms of the England connection now, and Forest having almost a bit of an established player in the setup, second time to be called up and remain in the squad, it just does so much almost for the club, both in terms of like a publicity wise and in terms of just showing how far Forest have come in a way to have a player in the England international first team. It's just it's just another good piece of news, isn't it?
It's quite a prestigious thing, I think. I think it reflects really, really well on Forest. And the fact that, when Morgan was signed, he was signed for a lot of money, and there were a lot of naysayers. Is this kid good enough? Can he justify the fee? To my way of thinking, and from what I've seen, Max, the fee, Morgan himself looked at the fee, and Morgan himself thought, I need to justify this. I need to be that guy. I sometimes have felt he's done far too much. Sometimes I watch games and I love him. He's a smashing lad. He's a super footballer. He's growing as a captain. He's growing as a leader in the group. He comes across really, really well. There are games where I kind of think, just calm down, Morg. You don't have to do everything for everybody. But then again, that to me smacks of a guy, right? If there's responsibility to be had, I'll grasp it and I'll be that guy. And, he's kind of like a manager's dream, really. I mean, even when he got sent off at Brentford, it was hard work and an utter determination to do the best he could possibly do for Nottingham Forest in that moment. Okay, he was a bit scruffy, but boy, you couldn't argue with his, desperation to win the ball back and to put the hard work in. And what I love about Morgan is, he's that X factor player. He's our most, if you like, he's our most high profile player. certainly now he's an England international, and fair play to him, he's earned that. And Lee Carsley obviously has a great amount of respect for him, and I think Morgan has a great amount of respect for Lee Carsley. But what I love about Morgan, he doesn't shirk the mucky stuff, if you like. He's prepared to get down and dirty in the trenches and put his work in. And I just think, a lot of guys that are X Factor guys in teams tend to, occasionally they tend to think, well, I'll let somebody else do the donkey work and I'll just have the finishing touches. Morgan wants to do it all. I mean, I always go back to when we beat Arsenal to stay up, and he beat 4 or 5 guys, maybe 6, had a shot. It was bowled out by the Arsenal keeper, and there's Morgan running like mad to make a tackle, and then punch in the air in front of A-block, and that just summed him up. And I haven't seen anything since to make me question that commitment. So yeah, he's a terrific lad, and he's got so much personality. And my only worry is that the way he's going to go on, somebody bigger than us might come and say, we'll have him. But I love the lad to pieces, and it's great for our club, great for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Feels like one of our own sometimes in a way. I always feel like, you almost feel like Morgan's a bit like a Yatesy in terms of a personality-wise, and he's come from the academy, and you feel like he's a Forest through and through, which he certainly does show it. Right, let's talk Chelsea, and I mean, they've had a fantastic start to the season.
Yeah, they are. Yeah,
under new life, under Enzo Marcia, obviously from Leicester, there was doubts about how he's going to do, but it's certainly had a great start. As of Liverpool, apart from the blip on the road against Forest, it was quite funny actually watching the commentary and listening to it last night when they're talking in the Champions League and they're on about Liverpool, and then they have to mention they've won in every competition bar against Nottingham Forest. It's like we get a free mention every time. How many times can you mention Forest?
I know,
I love it. So let's talk Chelsea, Dave. I mean, Forest have to stop the one-man show, Cole Palmer, surely, but there's some of the good players in that Chelsea side. They're playing tonight in is it the Conference League, I think it is, if I'm corrected. It's the Conference. Yeah, they're playing Ghent at home. So obviously the game was originally on a Saturday, gets moved to a Sunday. So they'll be a little bit tired and maybe rest a few players here and there. But it's just such a tough game to go away, isn't it, Dave, to one of the top 6? Yes, we did Liverpool, but you just can't underestimate a side like Chelsea, can you?
No, they've got so many good players. I mean, I tend to, my feeling maybe Sunday is that Cole Palmer will get built up as the bogeyman, and you can spend all your time trying to stop Cole Palmer playing. He's a wonderful talent. He's probably the most exciting player in the league at the moment. The kid's just got something about him. He just doesn't seem to. He seems to be completely insouciant about everything. Nothing seems to worry him. I don't know if it's cockiness or he's just built with like a, sort of an insulated head to keep all the pressure out. It just doesn't seem to worry. Scored in the Euro final like it was nothing. Out of nowhere. Scored 4 last week. Could have scored 5. My feeling about Sunday is it'll probably be somebody else. All the talk will be about him. Like all the talk was about our home form, and now the home form's not great, and now it's the away form. My feeling is maybe all the talk will be about Cole Palmer on Sunday, and then it might be Noddy Madueke, or it might be Jadon Sancho, or it might be Nicholas Jackson, who, if you remember, scored the winner against us at home at the end of last season, in what was a really good match actually. And Forest, yeah, they lost, but I thought Forest gave as good as they got in that game. I mean, they'll be looking for Callum, they'll be looking for Morgan, they'll be looking for some of our guys who are playing well. It is. I mean, you've got to give credit to Enzo Maresca because he's gone in there, and last season it was just, if you looked up the definition of the word chaos in the dictionary, it would just have Chelsea Football Club next to that, because off the field it just seems bonkers. I look at it from a distance and I just think, is it being run by people who actually understand the game of football? Or, the amounts of money that are being spent, it just seems like they're kind of hoarding players. I mean, the likes of Pedro Neto are knocking about, and there are lots of other players. But Enzo Maresca seems to have found some kind of methodology and a core of a team. And that's been borne out by what they've done the last few weeks. I think it's an incredibly difficult task for Forest on Sunday. But this Forest stands more of a chance of being irritating to Chelsea on Sunday than the teams of the last 2 seasons. And the teams of the last 2 seasons have gone and picked up a 2-2 draw at Stamford Bridge, where really should have won, and actually did win last season when Anthony scored the winner. So, it's probably just perverse that this is a better version of Forest, and maybe they won't do so well. But I mean, it's an incredibly difficult game. I've watched most of Chelsea's games, and you kind of think, how is it hanging together when there's all this bedlam off the field, all this noise around the club, and yet it's almost like Maresca is kind of managing to keep the team and the squad in a bubble and keep all of that nonsense away from them. They've been really, really good, Chelsea. To my way of thinking, they've got the best player in the league at the moment. So he'll take some stopping. But this Forest team, away from home, I think. I mean, there was talk about Nuno's selection against Fulham, and you only know it's wrong in hindsight. At the time, I was kind of thinking, well, Nuno's played a horse for a different course pretty much every week because he feels he's got options. He looks at his players and thinks, well, that guy suits this game, and maybe this guy suits a different game. I mean, at Liverpool, he got it spot on. But we're all imperfect human beings. You can be spot on one week and just slightly askew the next. So, I just think Forest will be in the game. I don't think it's going to be a cakewalk for Chelsea. But I just feel Chelsea just have that little bit of extra class. And Palmer's a difference maker.
Yeah.
He's proved that. And if Forest are going to have a say in this match, then Palmer has to be stopped. Madueke has to be stopped. The lads in midfield need to be dealt with. I mean, it's a tough task. But the games that Forest have played against Chelsea since they've come up, the 4 games in the league, Forest have not been shrinking violets. So I'm kind of hoping that Nuno will remind, certainly the lads who've played in those games, like Yatesy and Morgan and people like that, Taiwo, and what have you, that, get at Chelsea, don't stand off them. I think Nuno will be really irritated by what happened last week. It will hurt him. And he'll say, right, we go out there. I mean, it's a kind of a nice position for Forest to be in. They're clearly going to be underdogs. I can't imagine seeing any prediction this week having Forest winning at Stamford Bridge. And that might be nice to go in there under the radar and kind of, I think most people will say, Chelsea are going to win that. But sometimes football goes in funny ways. For example, when we went to Anfield.
Yeah.
The only thing about Anfield now, Max, is it means that I think everybody sat up and took notice of that result. And so I think everybody now is more, Forest have definitely picked up from the last 2 seasons. So I think there's a little bit more. They've got a little bit more pressure, they've got the lookout towers waiting for Forest. So, I mean, I think it's going to be a really good game the weekend, but very, very difficult, I think.
Yes, we shall see. I'm not that confident, if I'm totally honest. I think Forest will struggle this weekend. I think a draw would be an amazing result.
Oh, but I'd take a point now. I mean, I think, to be honest with you, Max, I think we're all of us, the whole fan base, in a sort of a similar state of mind. We all know how difficult it's going to be. I think the Cole Palmer factor is there, and everybody knows it from what he did last week and what he's been doing pretty much ever since he left City, which, was a brave career move to make.
Chippy chips.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, so it's going to be difficult. I'll take a point, mate. I'll take a point now. And then, a point at Stamford Bridge to kind of sustain us over the international break before we have a week where to my way of thinking, we've got 2 games where we can really attack them. Palace at home on the Monday night, Leicester away on the Friday night. You know what I mean? So we have to get something from this. Then it would really set us up for those games. You know what I mean?
Yes, we shall see, Dave. Thank you, mate. As ever,
Thank you,
fingers crossed for a good one. You shall be there on Sunday. You are there. Yeah, you follow Forest home and away, mate. So you'll be making the trip down to London at the 2 o'clock kickoff. It'll be me and Mark and somebody else, hopefully, after the game. We'll be doing a post-match live reaction. So do be sure to join in then. Just a few things before I go. Shout out to the fella that stopped me on Trent Bridge at the last, against Fulham, and was very nice about the podcast. I forgot his name, I said I'd give him a mention, and he was just really, really kind and thanked the great work we do. So thank you for that. Thanks as always for listening, leaving us some good reviews. You can do it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Follow us on there, like and share on YouTube. That's all the promo done. And from me and Dave, you go on, Dave. One last thing.
Just one last one. I want to mention something I've seen today around Forest, which I think is terrific credit to the club. Mr. Marinakis has allowed Vicky McClure and her dementia choir to use the facilities at the City Ground. I think it's a lovely gesture, very important thing, something dear to my heart. So well done to Mr. Marinakis, and well done to Vicky. Keep doing your stuff, Vicky. What a fantastic lady she is. And the people in the choir are just absolute angels, all of them. So I think it's great, that.
Lovely words, mate. That ends us very nicely. I won't say anything more on top of that. Lovely stuff. Well done, Forest. Well done, Marinakis. Keep up the good work, and we shall see you soon. Come on, you Reds. Here's for another massive 3 points on Sunday. We can do it.